Jupiter has moved now into the 9th degree of Aries. And so we're considering its own development. Jupiter isn't just Jupiter. It's an evolving, living being. One of the tricks that I think is very important for understanding astrology and any use of archetypal principles is to understand that they're alive, that they have self-consciousness. It perhaps is more accurate to go back to the days when we considered these planets to be gods. It's very helpful for us to awaken our own sense of that which is consciousness, that which can have consciousness. And to think of Jupiter as just an archetypal principle without any self-awareness would be to limit our sense of what it is and what it can do. Now, as such, any planet, of course, is, if it's self-conscious and alive and so on, it's not static. Nothing alive is static. So it's evolving, and its process of evolving is what we're tracing with the Sabian symbols. We can say it's going through Aries, and then that's very helpful. We know, therefore, that the fiery, assertive, directive, cardinal properties of Aries are affecting Jupiter. It's growing up to another level of self-assertiveness. Instead of just saying, oh, wouldn't it be nice if I grow a bit? It's saying, I intend to grow. Come what may, I'll take on some challenges here. So Jupiter's spurting forward because it's in Aries. However, it would be silly for us to think of Aries as just one energy. And this is the main thing that the Sabian symbols are teaching us, that it's not just one energy at all. We can summarize it as that for helpful use of shorthand. But when we look in the sort of the detail that Sabian symbols offer, we see a little bit of this, and then a little bit of that, and a little bit of something else, all in a very definite pattern that we can come to understand. And we're saying that the pattern is best seen as having 5 bits, and there are 6 such expressions in every zodiac sign. So we come to the Crystalgazer now, which is the 4th bit of the 2nd expression. And the 4th bit of any expression, the 4th degree of any 5-degree batch, in other words, takes stock of the push and the pushback and the reconciliation process of any expression and says, okay, how then do we realize this? So it's to do with technique or methodology. And when we come to the Crystalgazer, we're talking about looking at crystals and knowing stuff. Somebody who reads tea leaves, an astrologer perhaps, anyone who can actually look beyond the facts of the matter to read between the lines. That's basically what a Crystalgazer can do, and what we're studying here. And so we're seeing that we need to develop an intuitive side. We need to trust our intuition, and by trusting it, developing its trustworthiness, knowing that sometimes it's not right. Now this requires the expansion of faith. And this is good in Jupiter. Jupiter is quite a lot to do with faith. Jupiter can do faith in a way that Saturn cannot, for example. Jupiter can extrapolate and say, well, if that is, then that must be. That requires faith. So when we put Jupiter into the 9th degree, the Crystalgazer, we're talking about moving forward to a higher expression of faith in what? In oneself. In the end, that's the only thing that you'll ever have faith in. If you project your faith outwards onto God, that's not it. Because the faith that's that which we have as a goal in life, really, the ultimate goal, I would say, that faith is realizing God within ourselves, to know that we are an expression, a pressing out into the world expression of God. And so we have to take authority for that. We have to be confident to make a claim that we are valid. What we feel now, what we think now, what we choose to do now, our actions are valid expressions of the divine principle. And Jupiter does that. That's what Jupiter does. And it doesn't really do it better than it does in Aries, in that sense of expressing greater confidence than was previously expressed. And in this particular case, we're talking about expressing that confidence in oneself in the form of inner knowledge. Let me read from the book here. Aries 9, the Crystalgazer. Awakening the non-grasping, all-seeing, subtle aspect of mind. Non-grasping, all-seeing, holistic. The thing is about the mind is it wants to understand. It wants to put things in patterns. That mind that does that is called the gross mind in Sufism, or the monkey mind. It wants to grab at data and facts and opinion and say that is so, because that's the end of its inquiry and it likes that. Here we have a different thing. We're having to say that's not going to do it. That will not open the facility of divination within us. When we move into meditation, the first thing we have to learn how to do is to relax the gross mind so that it's focusing on breath. All of the aspects of breath, the movement of air, the physicality, in other words, the movement of the diaphragm, and extraneous noises, just everything that's factual. Let the mind, the gross mind, focus on those things. That's what it likes to do. Phenomena. And when it's absolutely absorbed by focusing on all of these things, phenomena, then the subtle mind is awakened. It's never really asleep. It's just that it's quiet. We can't hear it unless we listen. And we can't listen unless we give the monkey mind something to do, which disturbs its sense of curiosity and appetite. It's full, so that the subtle mind comes into play. And that's what we're talking about here in this degree. Awakening the non-grasping, all-seeing, subtle aspect of mind. Focusing the subtle mind. Being able to see the whole picture, the mature psyche, and the mature psychic can interpret scenes and scenarios in the holistic context. This perspective is not given to the one lost in narcissistic self-love and obsessed with self-projection. It's not going to be possible for you to read divinatory tools if you've got an agenda. And the gross mind wants something. It wants an answer to a question. It wants to underline its own self-importance. It wants to prove its point of view, say that its opinion is stronger than another opinion. That's what the gross mind does. And that's not going to give you any access to divination at all. You might as well not bother. You have to clear your mind of preferences and agendas and caring about the outcome before you can actually be receptive through the subtle mind. That itself is quite a mystery. Not that unusual. Most meditators can do that. But there is a higher level with this, and it's called the very subtle mind. Whereas with the subtle mind, you can inquire, you can very gently drop an inquiry into the process. So in the case of Crystalgazers, you can ask a question. Will this client have a certain outcome? Will they meet a partner? Will they be rich or whatever? You can kind of drop that into the equation. And there will be an echo of the question in the form of what you could interpret as an answer. But you go beyond that to the very subtle mind, and it's not a question of getting answers to inquiries. It is beyond that. It's expanding your mind, dilating it, so that there's There's a great deal less substance to it. It's not substantial anymore. It's very soft and light. And knowledge comes in the form whichever is suitable for you. You might see it, you might feel it, you might hear it if you're a musician, or even taste it if that's your thing. But you'll come to an awareness of something or other in some way or another, even beyond the five senses. And it hints at knowledge, and you just test it. Is that knowledge? And it's yeah or no. There's this yes-no kind of thing, which is so subtle. It's very hard to discuss and describe, because in any event, it's different for all of us. Now, this is where we're going with Jupiter. Jupiter wants to go to the nth degree of everything. So in the case of crystal gazing, it wants to go beyond, will I have a boyfriend? Will I be rich? It wants to go beyond that to the knowledge that can hardly even be described in words, and so on. So Jupiter in the 9th degree of Aries is an opportunity for us to see if we can reach a little bit deeper in our divinatory skills. It's a good time to practice a little bit more with your tarot cards and whatever you use.